On your phones and pagers, please silence them so that we don't have an interruption with our meeting. If you have one of the cases that you do not agree with and you want to appeal it, there are appeal cards down on the end of the railing there. Same thing true with speaker cards. If there's any case that you'd like to speak on, please fill out a speaker card and turn it into one of our staff down here. Each side will have 10 minutes with a 5-minute rebuttal. We do keep a timer up here, so we are going to, enforce that and try and move the meeting on. If you have any discussion, please take it outside the building. Don't go into the lobby because it still comes back into here. One of our commissioners, our vice chairman, has resigned, and so we're going to probably next month have to select a new vice chairman. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Martha Casabon. Lloyd Lauren. Marcus Hines. Todd Richard. Bernie Willie. Bill Matthews. Jimmy Davis. Dave Manella. Dale Mackey. Dave Doherty.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Please stand for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Martha, will you lead us in prayer? Bill? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item is the approval of the minutes of the August 7th meeting. Has everyone had an opportunity to review those? Bill?
Let Bill have it.
I've read the minutes, and I did not see any substantial changes, so I move to approve.
Motion to approve, seconded by Dale. And yeah, okay. Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you. Staff, do we have any cases that we need to table?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The first case on the agenda, the text change ZC 1208-065.
Okay. Any others?
Yes.
Okay. We need a motion to table zoning case 12-08-065, an ordinance to amend the St. Tammany Parish Unified Development Code, Volume 1 zoning, to create a Section 6.08 Regional Business Center overlay to allow for coordinated design standards and flexible standards for planned commercial or office developments. Do we have a motion to table? Motion to table, second. Okay, got a second. Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you.
Number 3 on the agenda, ZC 1208-075.
Okay, zoning case 12-08-075. Existing zoning is NC1 Professional Office District. Proposed zoning is I2 Industrial District. It's 1.4388 acres. Petitioner is Ed McClellan. Owner is Anita M. Warner. Parcel located on the east side of I-59 south and west of Louisiana 1090, Ward 8, District 9. Do we have a motion to table? So moved. Moved by Mr. Matthews, seconded by Todd. Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you.
And please note that number 4, ZC 1208-083, as well as ZC 1209 and 092 have been withdrawn. Number 4 and number 12, correct.
All right, we'll find them both here.
Helen, what's the number of the second one?
Number 4 is
I mean, the
zoning
number.
case 12-08-083.
83?
83 and 92. Yes, sir.
Okay. Item 4 is zoning case 12-08-083, existing zoning's A3 Suburban District. Proposed is MD1 Medical District, 1.2 acres. Arcadia Community LLC is a petitioner. The owner is Lenny L. Crawford and Jean Crawford Cleveland. Parcel located on the south side of Crawford Road, east of Louisiana
Oh, it's already
Highway
withdrawn.
21, south of Highway 36, Ward 3, District 2. Do we need to have a motion to withdraw?
No, sir.
Okay, all right,
Okay.
that's withdrawn. And item 12 is zoning case 12-09092, which is withdrawn. Existing zoning CB1 community-based facilities proposed is HC3 Highway Commercial District. It's 36.641 acres, partial located on the north side of Brewster Road, west of Louisiana 21, and south of I-12, Ward 1, District 1. And that one's also withdrawn. Any others?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. All right, the first item on our agenda is item number 2, which is zoning case 12-08-067. Existing zoning's A2 Suburban District, proposed is PF1 Public Facilities. Acres is 6.33. The petitioner is John Sammons. The owner is St. Tammany Fire District number 7, John K. Sammons, a parcel located on the west side of Louisiana 41, south of Gus Baldwin Road, being 73469 Highway 41, Pearl River, Ward 6, District 6. Staff?
There's an existing fire station on the site, and the zoning change is being requested in order to bring the facility into compliance with the appropriate zoning, and would like to recommend approval.
Thank you. Mr. Sammons?
Yes,
have any comments?
John Salmon, 769 Plantation Drive, and it feels funny to be on this side. Feels strange, I don't know what it is, but I see a lot of, Nick's that guy. No, I'm representing the fire district. I'm a commissioner on the fire board, and we wish that you guys would approve the public
All of a
facilities.
sudden, lights are going on. You must have some questions.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. I knew I was gonna get one from.
Mr. Matthews?
Actually, no question. Motion to approve.
Thank you.
I second it then.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve. Please vote. John, thanks for coming, and I hope the storm treated you well.
Thank you.
All right, next item is number 5, zoning case 11-09-080. Existing zoning is A1, proposed is A2 Suburban District, 11 acres. Parish Council, comes to us through the Parish Council by motion 8/4/2012. Parcel located on the north side of McLean Road, east of Section Road, west of Monica Lane, Ward 2, District 6. Staff?
The 2025 Future Land Use Plan calls for residential development in the area. The parcel is abutting A1 and A2 zoned properties. Staff has no objections to the request and recommends approval.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience here to speak on this? No one in the audience to speak on it. I'll turn it over to the commission. Bill? Dale, rather.
Since no one's here to represent it, I make a motion to table.
We have a
Mr. Chairman?
motion to table.
May I add something to the comments here? If you look at the map, if you see on to the north of it is zone A2, and to the west of it, it is zone A2. And this case is a 2011 case which was presented to us. And what happened is that the petitioner submitted the wrong legal description. So after reviewing the cases and talking to the petitioner, we found out that the wrong legal description had been provided to us. So basically, it went to council for approval. Council approved it. So the A2 on the north or the west side were the legal description presented. And here the owner now provided the correct legal description, and that's why it's back to you in front of you today.
Okay, commissioners, we have a motion.
So we approved it, and then council approved it. So we're just getting a correct legal description because
Correct.
it was redone.
Yes, yes.
I have no, I mean,
It's still on the table and you can't jump it, but I'll remove the table
Okay.
then.
Okay, you
Then I'll-
withdraw the motion
I'll
to
make a
table.
motion to approve.
Right, I'll go ahead
Or
and-
you, or,
And Bill withdraws his
Okay.
second.
Right, I'll
Martha?
go ahead and do approve then.
Okay, motion to approve, second, Martha.
yes, I'll second it.
Okay.
Okay.
Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you. Number 6, zoning case 12-09-086, existing zoning NC1 Professional Office District. Proposed zoning is NC2 Indoor Retail and Service District. It's 49,503 square feet. The petitioner is Elizabeth L. Coomba Glass, and the owner is Elizabeth L. Coomba Glass. Parcel located on the southeast corner of US Highway 190, South Oaklawn Drive, Ward 7, District 7. Staff?
The 2025 future land use plan calls for residential development in the area. The parcel is abutting NC1 Professional Office District on the north and west sides, and residential zoning A2 and A3 suburban districts on the south and east sides. Staff sees no compelling reason to increase the intensity of the commercial zoning in the area and recommends denial.
Okay. Anyone in the audience to speak? Please state your name, please.
Elizabeth Comby Glass. Sir, I would like to state on May 11, 2012, I purchased Lot 2A and Lot 2B. These are residential lots located in the back of this commercial lot. At the time of this purchase, Mr. Woods and myself had made an agreement that I would have first choice in the purchase of the commercial lot, as I was not interested in the 2 residential lots, not knowing what would be built on the commercial lot. I also have great concern about this commercial lot to the point that I may be living on the residential lots. I would hope that you would understand that I have no intentions of building or putting anything in this area that would not fit to the surrounding community. Also, my intent for the future of this property is a bakery. At the present, I have property up for sale. I have to sell my property before I can proceed with any business. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone in opposition? All right. I'm going to close the floor to the public and turn it to the commissioner. Mr. Davis.
Ms. Glass, you say
Yes.
you also own the residential property behind this?
I bought both of those residential lots right in the back of that commercial property. And
Okay.
upon buying those, I wanted the commercial lot because I don't want just anything next door to me either.
Right, so you would have control of what commercialization in the front.
Exactly, exactly.
You know, looking over the difference between NC1 and NC2, they both have the same 5,000 square foot maximum building size. And the major difference I see, obviously, is the professional offices on NC1, the surrounding area is NC1. NC2, you could have like a bakery and a delicatessen and a restaurant without a lounge. You know, for the Lacombe area, I believe I feel compelled to go ahead and grant the NC2, so I'll make a motion to approve NC2.
We have a motion by Mr. Davis to approve NC2, seconded by? Who second? Ms. Casabon?
Thank
Okay,
you.
discussion?
Yeah, I got a question.
Bill?
Miss Glass?
I knew I left too soon.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
I'm a little bit confused. You own the back property, which is residential, and you're going to buy the front property?
I already
what it's
have.
currently in? You already have. And you're concerned about what's going to go there,
As much as you are.
okay? But you're concerned about it, but you want to increase the zoning density of it. You want to go from NC1 to NC2.
Right. That's because you really don't know what the future holds, and I would like to, I can't say that I definitely, because since my purchasing of the property, my daughter has become ill, and I'm not sure at this point exactly which way I'm going to go with it, but I like more options should I get to that position.
Okay, so your request for NC2 is strictly speculative. You don't have any desire to do anything particular with it. You just want to get it to a higher classification as a speculation.
Basically, it gives me more room and, to cover
Well,
the
so would-
bases as far as putting something presentable in that area.
So would NC3, it'd give you more options too.
No, I'm satisfied with NC2.
Well,
It gives me something to work with, because right now I have no intentions of building anything at this point until I sell my property, which,
well,
when will
that
that
really
happen?
seems like the time that, to me anyway, you should come before us to change the zoning when you have something more desirable to put there. I agree with the staff. I don't see any reason to just speculatively go from NC1 to NC2 when there are 25 different options in NC2. That could be any of these things.
Okay, we have the question called. Please vote.
Well, the bakery, that would be an out. I'm just not sure at this moment. I'm not going to stand here and say something I'm not, but believe what I am telling you, I am concerned about what will be there, because I have those 2 residential lots in the back of me, and I probably do plan to move there. And I
Okay.
don't want nothing on that corner that's not going to fit in with that area.
The vote on the motion to approve is 4 yea and 4 nay. This will go forward to the council as a denial. Okay. Pardon? No, normally my vote would go with the majority, but since there's no majority, then yes, I can vote, and I will vote in favor of it. That'll give us a 5-4 vote, so that will go to the council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you.
You gotta have 6? That's right. You gotta have 6. Okay, so it still goes as unfavorable, as a denial. You need to fill out an appeal card, and it'll be appealed to the council.
I have it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see, that was 6. All right, item 7 is zoning case 12-09-087. Existing zoning is A1 suburban and CB1 community-based facility. Proposed zoning is CB1 community-based facility, MD1 medical residential district, and PF1 public facilities. The acreage is 111.402. Petitioner is Jeff Shane. The owner is Archdiocese of New Orleans. Parcel located on the south side of Dove Park Road and on the north side of Sharp Road, east of Fairway Drive, Ward 4, District 5. Staff?
The site in question contains 4 parcels. Lot 1 is currently zoned CB1 with a small portion zoned A1. The purpose of CB1 zoning district is to provide for the location of public and quasi-public uses that are appropriate within close proximity to residential districts. Lots 2 and 3 are requested to be rezoned from A1 Suburban District to MD1 Medical Residential. The purpose of the Medical Residential District is to provide for the location of facilities for the long-term care and housing of individuals in need of regular supervision or healthcare services due to ongoing medical conditions. Lot 4 is currently zoned PF1 with a small portion zoned A1. The purpose of PF1 zoning district is to provide for the location of governmental and other uses providing institutional uses to the public. The 2025 future land use plan calls for the area to be developed as a planned district, including residential uses and the preservation of the natural environment. Staff does not object to the requested zoning change, considering that it meets the objectives of the 2025 future land use plan. The CB1, PF1, and MD1 zoning districts will provide for a balance of compatibility and transition with the surrounding residential uses. Staff recommends approval.
Mr. Shane.
Thank you, Mr. Doherty. Good evening. Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell Law Firm in Covington, and I represent the Archdiocese of New Orleans, which is the owner of this tract and the petitioner before you this evening. If you would, I'd like you to take a look at the 4th page of your staff comments or reports, which should be the excerpt of the minor subdivision, which probably all of you remember because that's something that you've approved within the last 3 months. And looking at the minor subdivision, kind of tells the story as, in part, as to why we come before you this evening. Approximately, would you mind, Mr. Chair, if these folks
Let's,
could
please.
quiet up or leave one of the two? No, it's okay. But if they could carry on outside, it would be a little easier for all of us. Approximately 6 to 9 months ago, and I may be a little off on the date, we came before you to seek some zoning for our church, for the Most Holy Trinity Parish, and also for a cemetery, funeral home, mausoleum, which you graciously recommended and which the council approved. At the time we sought that zoning, our concepts had not been refined to the point that we had actually procured the minor subdivision, which in fact created the lots of record. Since that time, we came back to you and created the minor subdivision, which is the 4th page that you're looking at. And if you'll now look at the 3rd page of your staff report, you will see that the CB1 zoning and the PF1 zoning previously granted did not fill the entire footprint of the lots that we created in the minor subdivision. That's it. At the time we came to you with the zoning, we gave you our best impression of the area that we thought would fit within each of those lots. So as to lots 1 and 4, I would suggest to you that approximately 90% of those lots are already zoned the zoning that we seek tonight. Same project for the church on Lot 1. On the west side, if you will, same project for Lot 4, which again is a cemetery, funeral home, mausoleum. A slight enlargement, but all of the buffers that we have agreed to with the council that are going to be confected in a developmental agreement are all in play. What is new before you this evening is the zoning that we seek for lots 2 and 3. And quite frankly, when we came to you before, we weren't exactly sure what our land use would be in that area. There was obviously a large range of possibilities. The Archdiocese decided and has embarked upon a very exciting project to create what we consider to be a state-of-the-art retirement community at this location on lots 2 and 3. Lot 2 will be phase 1, lot 3 on the east side, if you will be phase 2. That retirement community will be a concept that will embrace all of the traditional components that you would find for independent living, assisted living, memory care, etc. In fact, in phase 2, you will even see the development of individual villas where you will have, in essence, single-family residential living in garden homes and things of that nature. In conjunction with our church project and also the creation of the infrastructure, which, as you'll remember, as we've discussed before, includes the extension of Judge Tanner Drive to the east. And again, you can take a look at the minor subdivision map to kind of refresh yourself. That's along the south side of Lot 1. And it will also include the construction of what we refer to as Holy Trinity Drive. That's the drive going to the north between lots 1 and 3 on the west, lots 2 and 4 on the east, connecting to Dove Park Road. That infrastructure, of course, is, we think, going to change in a very positive manner the transportation and traffic patterns in that area. Whereas now cars wanting to get from 190 and Judge Tanner Drive have to use Dove Park Road or other roads to get east to Highway 59. This is going to allow, of course, for vehicles to use Judge Tanner Drive and go north on Holy Trinity and tie into Dove Park. In order to really put together a sound economic plan as it relates to the infrastructure, the roads, the sewer and water extension, the drainage, the utilities, and also the construction of the church, the Archdiocese also believes it's wise to get the land use in place for the retirement community. That will follow in all likelihood. It's not going to be something that's going to happen immediately, but it's not something that's going to be in the distant future. Very active plans are underway. In fact, there's hopes of procuring the necessary financing this fall. It's multiples of tens of millions of dollars for this project, and the Archdiocese is confident that this will be a real asset, not only for this particular parish, meaning Most Holy Trinity, but for the people of St. Tammany Parish, because we think it's going to provide some much-needed institutional resources at a very centralized location with, quite frankly, some terrific infrastructure. So that is the overview of what we come to you for this evening. Really sounded some cleanup zoning for lots 1 and 4, some new zoning for lots 2 and 3. We ask that you recommend the change of zoning and certainly concur with the comments and recommendation of staff. If any of you have any questions or comments, I'll be glad to address them.
Thank you, Mr. Shane. Do we have any opposition in the audience? All right, I'm going to close the floor and turn it over to the commissioners. Mr. Matthews.
Jeff, I've looked this thing over and I've talked to a few people about this. This is one of those things that our population, not only here in St. Tammany but throughout the U.S., is aging. We don't particularly like that, but it is. And many parts of the country are way, way ahead of us in building facilities like this. I for one, see that this type of facility is needed here and other places, and I make a motion to approve.
We have a motion by Mr. Matthews to approve. We
Second.
have a second. Mr. Davis?
Jeff? In simple terms, you're just taking the A1 50 acres and just requesting MD1, which is still residential, correct? It's
The
still,
A1
in essence, it is still you being used residential, which fits into the 2025 plan.
That's correct. It's probably a little closer to what an institutional use, but it has a strong residential
Right.
flavor because that,
Right.
it's certainly not going to be commercial, industrial. It's not going to be a school, that type of thing. That's
Good
correct.
use, good use.
Any other questions? Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 8, zoning case 12-09-088. Existing zoning is A4, single-family residential. Proposed zoning's ED1, primary education district. It's 12,000 square feet. Petitioner is Beverly McQuaid. Owner is Parent Teacher Child Services Incorporated / Beverly McQuaid. Parcel located on the east side of Solt Street, north of McNamara Street, south of Dupard Street, being 1335 Solt Street, Mandeville, Ward 4, District 7. Staff?
The 2025 future land use plan designates the area to be developed with residential uses. The proposed purpose of the ED1 zoning district is to provide for location for public, private school, and daycare facilities. Staff feel that there's no compelling reason to recommend approval of the request, considering that the site is surrounded by single-family residences. Note that a conditional use permit was previously approved for the site to be operated as a daycare center. At this time, staff would like to recommend denial.
Thank you. Please state your name.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name is Philip M. Lynch, Jr. I'm here on behalf of the petitioner, Parent Child Teacher Services Incorporated. I'd like to introduce the owner of the business, Ms. Beverly McQuaid. And I have, for the commission, I have photographs of the site that I think will be beneficial for everyone to get a visual on the site in question. I'd like to hand those out at this time. What I'll be doing tonight is just, I'll give you a brief introduction of the facts of the case. It's very simple. And I'm going to ask the buyer, the contingent buyer, to come up and speak. The real estate agent, Mrs. Shea, is not here yet. So what I'll do is just do a quick summary, allow Mrs. Fashion, who is the purchaser of the property, to speak, and then I'll summarize it up as well. Ladies and gentlemen of the commission, this request tonight is not changing the use of the property, only the zoning of it. The property that you have in front of you, this picture, illustrates a daycare center that has operated on that site between 35 and 40 years, the past 35, 40 years, always under conditional use permit. The property is located on Solt Street, which is parallel to Highway 59 and about a quarter mile east of it. The the two photographs you have in front of you show two things. First of all, it shows the rather commercial appearance of the property over the 35, 40-year period of time. The building, which was originally a residence, has been converted completely into a daycare center. The floor plan is indicative of a school. The entire front lawn has been paved in cement. The second photograph down below shows a picture of the site looking south down Salt Street, all the way to 190. Mrs. McQuaid, the current owner, has operated this site as a daycare center for the past 14 years. 2 years ago, she closed the business and put it up for sale as a turnkey operation. Mrs. McQuaid did not know at the time she did so that she would eventually lose the conditional use permit because of the lapse of time. There is a purchaser of the property. Mrs. Fashon is here tonight. I'm going to let her speak here in just a second. That sale is contingent upon the rezoning to the classification that perhaps it always should have been, which is Educational District 1. The sale is, of course, contingent upon this. Mrs. Fashon has employees who are ready to go to work. She actually has potential clients who have signed up, and they are waiting to enroll their children in this school as soon as the approval is received from the parish. At this time, I'd like to call Mrs. Fashon. This is Trinique Fashon.
Hi. Good evening. My name is Trinique Fashon, and I have over 20 years of experience working in a child care, daycare, preschool setting. And I'm just here today to ask you to give me the chance to reopen the school on Salt Street, to give me the chance to give my employees that I have waiting a job, and also the parents that are in line waiting a place to bring their children. It would give me the chance to follow my dreams. So I thank you. Thank you.
We had also scheduled the real estate agent Beverly Hobbs Shea to appear, but she, I think, anticipated Mr. Shane's hearing going much longer and probably will not get here until later. Let me just summarize the facts as following. The staff has, of course, denied the request for rezoning, essentially stating that there is no compelling reason to grant the rezoning, and goes on to state because it is surrounded by single-family residences, period. If the report were to say it's surrounded by single-family zoning, A4, it would be more appropriate. And I'll explain this. First of all, if you go to the site and look out the front door, there are 2 squares across the street. There's nothing there. There's never been anything there on the squares. The property is vacant. Behind this parcel of property, behind the daycare center, there's nothing there. There never has been anything there. That's empty as well. South of the daycare center, there is 1 residence that is as old as the daycare center itself. South of that home, there is nothing all the way to Highway 190. North of this house, north of the daycare center, there is a single-family residence, and a few more north until you get to the cross street of Albert. Thus, the property remains in effect exactly as it has been throughout the entire period of time where the conditional use permits have been issued. Mrs. McQuaid's request is not one of convenience, it is essentially one of necessity. This building, during the time that she has owned it, has had a commercial well installed. It has a commercial treatment plant as required by the DHH. It has been completely remodeled inside. It is essentially only suitable for a daycare facility or for a school. If she is unable to have the zoning changed, it will essentially revert back to a single-family dwelling that Mrs. Shea, if she were here, would probably agree would be relatively worthless because no one would buy it in the present shape because it is laid out as a school building itself. You can see by the photographs that you have in front of you, the entire front lawn has been paved over the years. And the most compelling reason to do this is the fact that there is a precedent for this. I understand the conditional use permits have been done away with, but when a business is operated under that for almost 40 years, and by a lapse of judgment, Mrs. McQuaid allows that to expire, so be it. But you just heard from Mrs. Fashon, who's here, ready to open up a business, ready to do business as Parish President Brister has suggested that we all be more friendly to. That logic would have it that the zoning, the rezoning would be allowed to allow it to continue in the very business that it has been in for this period of time. And I'm asking each one of the commission members tonight to consider the pleas of Ms. McQuaid, Mrs. Fashon, and go ahead and grant the rezoning and allow this business to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone in the audience opposed to this? Well, I'm going to close the floor to the public and turn it over to the commissioners. So, Ms. Casabon.
Yes, oh, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, may I add a comment, please?
Pardon?
May I add a comment?
Yes.
I think we didn't state that in the staff report, but when we look at the different uses that are permitted under 81, one of the staff concerns is to meet the parking requirements. And if we suggest, if we look at the daycare center, a minimum of 5 spaces is required, plus 2 for every 3 employees on duty. I looked at the conditional use permit and, the survey that was submitted in the past, and unless if there's more property, maybe more property has been purchased to the side or something like that, I'm not really sure at this time how they're going to be able to meet the minimum number of parking spaces on the site. And this is one of our concerns. And we want to mention this because at the same time, if for some reason you recommend approval, or if the council decides to recommend approval, this is something that we're going to have to address with the future owner.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Lambert. Ms. Casabon?
Okay, yes. Philip, let me understand. Did you say that she has been working up to this point, or it has been closed for 14 years? I heard the 14 years. Explain.
She operated it as a daycare center for 14 years. She closed it in 2010 and had it listed as a turnkey operation.
Okay.
If you go there today and look inside, it looks like it's operating. Everything is still there, and except for a good cleaning and
Well,
the meter being installed, it's ready to open up and to do business.
okay, I just wanted to make sure that I understood you correctly, that she had been operating up until, so it's been at least a year and a half or so. Is there, well, now that Helen's brought this up, before we even go in with what I have to say, is there enough room for the additional parking? Is the lot big enough to meet the requirements of?
Thank you. Thank you for asking that.
Okay.
I visited the site today, and I studied the staff recommendation to be prepared for here, and their statement for the denial is a one-sentence statement. It's hard to be prepared, whether you're in a courtroom or whether you're in this room, to come and argue a case if one of the parties is allowed to what might be called the expansion of the pleadings, or to enlarge their argument at the last minute, such as the parking. However, in anticipation of this likelihood, I visited the site today and did measure the space. There is room for 8 cars to be parked and to still allow the circular driveway, which is there, to be operated. So this is a piece of property where whether you're coming south, heading toward 190, you can enter the circular driveway, drop your child off. Or if you're heading north, you may do the same thing, and there is still room for 8 cars. And I don't know how many employees Ms. Vashon intends on operating, but if she has more than 8 employees, she's probably not going to make a profit. So I would assert that there's more than adequate
That's-
parking.
That was, you know, I'm concerned that you would have to meet whatever concerns that the parish has. I'm looking at this, since we did away with the conditional uses, and the conditional uses were there in effect, that if the areas, if there was a business or whatever in operation, and as the area changed, and that particular business did not fit into that location, I believe that this particular area doesn't look like it has changed in the last year and a half, and that the people knew that, you know, the daycare was there. So in my mind, as she was talking, I was thinking about, well, like we've missed some of the areas that were operating businesses, and they had to come back before us to get their correct zoning, that you know, we missed it in the comprehensive zoning, that this is commercial property, well, it was used as commercial property, that the neighbors, were you going to say something, Helen? I saw you fixing to say something.
Well, and it's possible that, as I said, I'm looking at the survey, you know, that I pulled from the conditional use permit. According to St. Tammany Parish regulation, at this time, I do not know how, you know, they will be able to provide the required parking spaces.
You still don't think so?
And meeting, you know, because a parking spot has to be 9 by 18, and you need 22 feet to back out. Now, as I said, maybe additional property has been bought, or maybe I'm not looking at it correctly.
Have she added any of the properties since the conditional use? Has a lot, or has she bought anything else since?
I don't believe so.
No. So what was
No, ma'am.
originally the survey that they're looking at, do you understand, says that there wouldn't be the parking? Well, that kind of changes my view, that we'd have to meet the regulations, as, you know, that even the ED, if we rezoned it to the ED1, it would still have to meet these requirements. And from what Helen's saying, it sounds like there's not enough of the parking. Go ahead.
Well, before an occupation license can be issued, you know, we'll
have
have
to
to
meet.
review the required parking
Right.
and make sure it meets those requirements.
Okay.
I mean, this is not a condition that we can add
Right.
to the zoning change. We're just bringing this up as additional
Exactly,
information to the case.
exactly, but we want to know that if it would fit and stuff. I just that it looks like it's in the same area, but things have changed that where the ED, what you're asking for, it would have to end up fitting. I'll listen to someone else if they need, if they have any other comments.
Mr.
Bud has
Matthews,
some
I believe your light was on next. Matthews.
Yeah, sorry. We're having a little conference here. This property was originally given a conditional use for a reason, I think anyway, because the property was A4 and no one wanted to change it from A4. We were allowing this daycare center to operate under a condition, but not to change it from A4. If you look at the property, there is not a single commercial, matter of fact, there's not anything other than A4 from 1088 all the way to 190. And if you go on either side of Zolt for many blocks, there's nothing but A4. To open up now to put a semi-commercial, if not a full commercial use on Zolt, I think is an extremely bad precedent. Now, the parking is not really of our concern here. That would be a very serious concern to anyone that purchases the property. If you can't get an occupational license, then you certainly can't put anything on it. But it concerns me that once we have now broken the dam on Salt, that other commercial properties will be looked at, or people will want that. And this is an area that is strictly single-family, some small homes. There's a couple of big homes on Salt, but mainly small homes in and around this area. And we really just don't need any commercial. And this piece of property, this building, looks like a house. When you take off the decorations, it's a house. And I think that's what it needs to be. I would move for denial.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Matthews to deny. Do we have a second?
I have a second.
Second by Mr. Davis. Do you have a question, Mr. Davis?
Yes, I do. I do have another concern I think maybe the staff has brought up about Salt and years ago how this was, because I know this area very well, is with the traffic flow on Salt too. There's a tremendously more traffic flow on Salt than ever that we have. And I think that may be another reason why the planning department makes a recommendation to deny.
Okay, Mr. Willie?
Helen, you mentioned that how if it went to ED1, it wouldn't meet the parking requirement. How many parking spaces would it allow, in your opinion?
A parking spot is a minimum of 9 by 18, and you
Okay.
need 22 feet to back out. Now, of course, there's always the possibility of having parallel parking spaces, but the property is still 100-foot wide. According to what I'm looking at right now, I'm thinking that I don't know exactly how we're gonna fit 5 parking spaces plus 2 for every 3 employees on
Helen.
duty. Yes, sir.
Check and see if that mic is actually on. I'm having trouble hearing you. And
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. The parking is a concern. I don't know if this is a place here to discuss this issue.
Well-
I'm answering your question, sir, but.
Okay, so if it would, say, in your opinion, maybe would allow 5, so what would that allow him to do? Because you mentioned so many parking places per employee.
It's 5 parking spaces plus 2 for every 3 employees on duty.
So if you had 5 parking places, how many employees could be there?
No, it's 5 parking spaces plus 2 for every 3 employees on duty. So you have a 5
So
minimum.
nobody can work there, you got 5 parking spaces, basically. Yeah, so you'd need at least 7. Okay, and is there, and one more question, if it was granted, is there potential to have waivers of parking spaces?
It's possible to go to the Board of Adjustments and see, how they would look at
Okay.
the situation.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Lauren?
The only question I have is make sure we're all on the same page. On the sheet that we're looking at is Exhibit 3 of 5. On this case, are we all looking at the same plot? Because if you can show me how you could get potentially 7 parking places and maintain the circular drive, personally, I don't see how you could do it, if this is the accurate plot.
Well, I didn't take place in the preparation of the plot or the dimensions, Mr. Commissioner, but being there today, if to the extreme right of the property as you drive up, if 2 cars pull all the way forward, straight ahead, I'm talking on the right side or the south side of the property, and 2 cars pull behind it, then it still allows a 3rd vehicle to enter the circular driveway and exit. On the left side of the driveway, if 2 cars pull straight ahead, closest to the front of the building, and 2 cars park behind it, that's the 8 as I calculated it. If you had those 8 vehicles there, it still provides enough room for the entire circular driveway to function.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
I know we're discussing this issue here, and a motion has been made. However, would like to extend the offer that would be more than happy to work with the petitioner, the owner, and the representative, with the parking issue. However, it's obviously not something we're going to resolve this evening.
I understand.
Would you consider postponing this to next month's meeting? And give you an opportunity to get with staff and see if you can work this out.
Mr. Chairman?
Point of order.
Will it?
Point of order,
will
Mr.
it-
Chairman. We're discussing parking that has nothing to do with zoning.
That's correct.
And for us to table this because of parking regulations, we're putting the cart way before the horse. The parking regulations will come into effect when they go to a occupational license.
Right.
So I'm not even sure we should even be discussing parking. It was kind of a peripheral that Helen threw out there, and I understand why she did it, but that should not become the focus of this hearing. This hearing is on zoning, and I've made a motion that the zoning is inappropriate, and there's been a second, and
Mr. Casabon has,
Yeah, I just wanted to make one comment. I know what you said was very correct, but at the time that we had conditional uses was the fact that we didn't have all these different zonings that we now can protect the particular area, that if this is an ED1, that's all that can go in there. Before, you know, if we just blanketed, we didn't have these different zoning classifications. So the conditional use was something that protected the people around, and we didn't transfer it. But now with having specific guidelines for the educational one, or ED1, then we know that the area is protected as far as this is the only thing that can go in that area. So I just wanted to throw that out.
okay.
Mr. Chairman, briefly, for what it's worth, Mrs. Shea, the real estate agent, is here. I would like for her to give her input, just for a minute.
Let me see if the commissioners will allow it. We've got a motion and a second to deny. Would y'all allow the realtor to speak briefly?
how long?
Pardon?
How long?
1 minute?
Okay, no longer than 2 minutes?
Okay, 2 minutes.
I have no problem.
All right.
Just step up and introduce yourself.
Okay. Good evening. I'm Beverly Hobbs Shea with Real Estate Resource Group. I'm Beverly Hobbs Shea with Real Estate Resource Group. I've had the property listed for approximately 2.5 years. In that time, there are numerous inquiries, phone calls, emails that I get, all from people that are desiring to open a daycare or a preschool. So for me, it's very obvious that there is a need that is there, or I would not continue to have this list of people that are interested. The reason that the property, in my opinion, hasn't sold has to do more with an economic situation, because most of these people are having a hard time transitioning from whatever they're doing on a limited basis into more of a school or more formal setting. It was not brought to our attention until recently that the conditional use zoning, when the property was vacated, changed. My interest simply is filling the need, or finding the need and filling it, and I can only go by the number of inquiries that we have from people that want to operate a facility. So that's all that I can really mention as far as the need. I think there is definitely a need there. It's obvious to me. We do have a buyer who has some experience that would like to put the property back into commerce.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Mr. Mackey.
I just have a brief question to ask you. Looking at the drawing of the residence house, whatever you want to call it, on the left side, it looks like it goes right up to the property line. Is that correct? And who, the property looks like 200 feet or so to Dupart Street, but what's going on there? That's right on the line.
I'm going to ask Ms. McQuaid to answer that question, because I'm not familiar with where the property lines are.
Because it was conditional use at that time, I think it grandfathered in or close to the line.
Right, I mean, it doesn't meet the code today, but I just wanted to know. So y'all don't own any of the property to the left to
No,
Dupart?
we
Okay.
don't, no. But I would like to mention briefly, I'm Beverly McQuaid, the owner, obviously, is that Mr. Jake Grody has expressed that he is in favor of this, and I've also spoken with Mrs. Pat Brister, who's both felt strongly that this was just to keep it this way. In order to put it back to make it a residential sale would cost a tremendous amount of money. I had sent a virtual tour from Mrs. Shea that gave them a great look to see that the classrooms are set up, everything is ready to go, it's totally turnkey,
Okay.
and to have to,
Excuse me.
yes.
All right, we've got a motion and a second to deny. Please vote.
Hold it. I voted incorrectly. I pressed the wrong button. My motion to deny, so I obviously am not going to vote against it.
All right, so we've got we got 3 nay and 5 yay, backwards, excuse me. 3 yay and 5 nay, and Mr. Matthews is, what was yours, Bill?
It's 4 and 4.
No, it should be yay, so I'm like a 4 yay and 5 nay, so the motion will fail. Okay? So this will go to the council.
To deny.
It'd be 4 and 4. That's right. Still fails. Okay? The appeal cards are on the end of the counter, and you can appeal it to the council.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner, Chairman. I would like, in anticipation of this, I'd like to possibly gather the photographs so I can use them at the hearing with the council, and I will complete, I have my appeal completed, and I will hand it in now.
Okay, thank you. All right, next item is item 9, zoning case 12-09-089, existing as A2 Suburban District, proposed as A2 Suburban District and manufactured home overlay. It's 1.5 acres. It comes to us by Parish Council motion of 7/12/2012. Parcel located on the west side of Tulip Drive, south of David Landing. I believe that's supposed to be Davis Landing, Helen, if I'm not mistaken. Davis Landing Road being 309 Tulip Drive, Slide L, Ward 8, District 9. Staff?
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the site to be developed with residential use, including manufactured homes. Staff does not have any objection and would like to recommend approval.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Elliott?
Hello, my name is George Elliott. I'm speaking on behalf of my mother, Margaret Elliott. She'd be here, but she's been moved to Mobile because of the storm in the Pearl River. What we'd like to see happen is she's owned land for 25 years, give or take a year or so. She had a trailer on it. Her financial situation has changed. She'd like to put one back on it. And she's disabled, and she can't afford to build a house on it. So that's why we're here.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Elliott. Mr. Davis?
Mr. Elliott, should there be a total of 1 trailer being on this property, not 2?
That's it, absolutely.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Davis to approve, seconded by, who seconded? Todd? No, Willie seconded? Okay. Please vote. Please fill out one of the speaker cards, too. Motion to approve, that's correct. We hadn't voted. Motion carries, thank you. Item 10 is zoning case 12-09-090, existing zonings A3 Suburban, proposed as I1 Industrial. It's 1.19 acres, comes to us by Parish Council motion of 8/4/2012. Parcel located on the east side of Louisiana Highway 41, north of Bill Stoltz Road, south of Jack Crawford Road, being 67296 Highway 41, Pearl River, Ward 6, District 6. Staff?
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the site to be developed with commercial uses. Staff does not have any objection to the requested zoning change, considering that there's an existing office warehouse on the site. Note that the site was zoned C2 highway commercial before the comprehensive rezoning, and staff would like to recommend approval.
Okay. Do we have anyone here in the audience to speak for this case? Okay, we'll get to you in just a minute. You're speaking for the?
Yes.
Okay, please state your name.
My name is Kevin Jordan, and I'm with Jordan Investments of St. Tammany LLC. And we purchased this property in 1991. It's a 6,000 square foot commercial building on 1.19 acres. I believe it was built in 1981. Since we purchased the property in 1991, it has been used for commercial use. Originally North Shore Marine Incorporated. After that, it housed North Shore Trailer and Equipment, Luxury Countertops, later leased the property after Hurricane Katrina. Then Levine Plumbing. Recently, we leased the property to AAA Collision and Motors, and at that time we found out it had apparently been inadvertently rezoned for residential use.
Okay, thank you. Is that all you have? Okay. All right, we'll turn it over to Mr. Stoltz. I believe you had wanted to comment? Mr. Stoltz?
Thank you. My name is Bill Stoltz, actually Bill Stoltz Jr. I live at 67301 Bill Stoltz Road, and I'm definitely opposed to rezoning this industrial. My family has been here since 1954. I'm speaking on behalf of myself, my family, my brother Jim, his family, my brother Ray, his family, my daughter Nicole, her family, our neighbor Debbie Fontenot, and for my mother. My father passed away. My mother has dementia and lives with us. We certainly understand that a mistake has been made in the zoning and that it was changed from HC2 to A3 suburban. We would have no opposition to changing it back to HC2, Highway Commercial 2. We are opposed definitely to it going to any kind of industrial. We're in a rural environment. Some 30 years ago, Mr. Jiggs Alsabrook approached my dad. He wanted to build a feed store. My dad thought long and hard about it. He knew Mr. Alsabrook. Well, a feed store kind of fits in a rural environment, so that's okay. We won't oppose it. Go ahead and do it. Well, Mr. Alsabrook's business failed. The Jordans bought the property, used it to store their equipment when they did clean up, I think, on the river, and then they started their trailer business there, and then they started leasing the building out. Well, over the years, we've had various kinds of abuse of the property. At one point, Mr. Sidney Fontenot got involved on our behalf and actually issued a cease and desist order because they were making marble countertops there and running a saw 4 to 6 hours a day with a loud noise, polluting the area with dust, piling trash up in the back, didn't have a dumpster or anything. He got them in compliance, took several trips out there and worked with their attorney to get them to comply. We have nothing against the use, again, of that property in highway commercial. It's been used like that for over 20 years. But to take it to do spot zoning and take it to industrial now is just unconscionable. We thought that we had a comprehensive zoning ordinance that would protect us from this kind of thing. Please, please honor our wish to keep some semblance of rural activity to where we are. We don't want to wake up to the smell of paint fumes. We don't want to wake up to the sound of high-pitched saws. And that's it. That's my case. You know, here we are. There was a mistake made. This property has never been used for industrial use since the Indians were on it. You know, we've owned land in the area longer than anybody but the Indians. And it's a rural environment. That's why we moved here in 1954. We realize times are changing. Things have to change with it. But please, don't put industrial upon us. Highway commercial's okay, not industrial. Now, I've talked to the folks where this company was before they moved here. They were so glad to see them go because they couldn't stand the fumes from the paint booth, and they couldn't stand what they did to the backyard. They made it up into a junkyard. I spoke to Mr. Tanner today. He's the one that submitted the request to the council, which he should rightfully do for any citizen to let them be heard. He visited, the first time he visited the site, they told him they were going to have an auto parts store, which, you know, that's retail. Then from there, somehow it got changed to a body shop. He went back and visited in the last few days, and he was quite surprised to see how many vehicles, RV, boat, everything that had been moved into the yard. You know, so once again, thank you for your time. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I don't want to do any harm to the Jordans, and I would love to see you go ahead and put it back highway commercial 2 as it was before, but please don't put industrial on us. Don't make us drive past the junkyard, smell paint fumes, and hear loud noises all day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stoltz. Rebuttal?
Our original zoning of the property was C2, which was the appropriate zoning for a body shop. We're not asking for anything that we didn't have before. C2 was appropriate for a body shop. That's what we leased it out as. I realize that there are some compliance issues that they have to follow, and that is up to our tenants, our lessees. And, you know, I understand that they have to comply with whatever the law is, and we're not asking for anything we didn't have before. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Stoltz, you have any rebuttal? Do you have any rebuttal?
I'm sorry, I have a hearing disability, and I didn't hear what he said. You know, my only rebuttal is, what is this? Now, I'm quoting Mr. Tanner here. I don't have first-hand knowledge of this.
Basically, what the gentleman said was that it was previously zoned C2, and under C2, he's under the impression that a body shop was allowed in C2. I'm not sure of that. I'd have to check with staff, but I don't think it was. So, you know, if that's, you know, what you need to know to make a comment, then please make a comment.
Okay, yes, my comment would be this. They moved in without checking the zoning. They would have known that it had been rezoned suburban, A3 suburban. Never has it ever been in any zoning that would allow the body shop, to my knowledge. When Mr. Tanner visited, they didn't have an occupational license. They couldn't get it because of the zoning, which means they're there without an occupational license. So something's really wrong with this picture.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm going to close the floor and turn it over to the commissioners. Mr. Davis?
Yes, Mr. Jordan. Why are you not requesting HC2 to go back to what it was before we just accidentally zoned it A3?
All I'm asking is that we had what was before. I'm not, is there a C2 zoning now, or?
We have a highway commercial 2 zoning.
Okay, does that
which
allow?
is exactly what you have on 2 sides of your property.
Okay, does that allow body shops? See, I'm looking at the C2 zoning here. I have a copy.
It does not allow body shops.
I have a copy of the C2 zoning in item number 2-1203. I'm sorry, retail and service uses, item number 11, auto body shops.
Helen?
If I'm not mistaken, he's reading the C2 highway commercial that we had in the past.
That's the old,
That's correct.
The new highway commercial 2.
Yes, this is what we had before, and so when we were approached by our tenants, we looked at, and I assumed that it was still C2 zoning.
No.
Actually, a body shop was listed as a conditional use in the past. At this time, a body shop is only permitted under I-1.
Right. So you see the complexity of this now.
Yeah. Well, what I'm saying is I'm looking at the C2 zoning, and that's what we had before.
Right.
And it allowed body shops, and that's all I'm asking is that we have that we're zoned accordingly
It's,
to what
it's
we
not
have
that
before.
easy just to do that, because again, the whole parish has been rezoned, and the parish criteria has changed from each code.
Mr. Matthews.
Well, previously, Helen, C2, the use allowed of right under C2 did not allow body shops. They allowed body shops only as a conditional use. Is that correct? Okay. So this property, under its zoning, did not allow body shops.
Under the
They could have
previous
only,
zoning.
they could have only had a body shop legally if they'd have come to us and then to the council to approve a conditional use. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So,
However, you know, in 1985, you know, the C2 highway commercial could have been totally different. It did allow body shop at the time, and maybe a body shop moved in.
well, but our previous zoning said C2 only allowed body shops as a conditional use.
Correct.
HC2 allows automotive repair and service facilities, which is close to a body shop, but not exactly. To jump this up to an industrial use, when it's surrounded by highway commercial, I feel like it's kind of strong.
Mr. Willie?
It's not only surrounded by highway commercial, but it's also abuts an A3 zoning, and that's my concern, and I'm going to move for denial.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Mr. Willie to deny, seconded by Mr. Matthews. Any further discussion? Please vote. Denial carries. If you wish to appeal, please get an appeal card and turn it in to staff. Item 11 on the agenda, zoning case 12-09-091. Existing zonings HC1 highway commercial, proposed zoning A8, multifamily residential districts, 1.903 acres. Petitioners Holly Basilon, Realtor. Owner is Alice Elizabeth Keith. Parcel located on the south side of Louisiana Highway 22, west of Penns Chapel Road, east of Fairview Oaks Boulevard, Ward 4, District 4. Staff?
The 2025 future land use plan calls for mixed light commercial uses in the area. Staff sees no compelling reason to change the zoning to multifamily and would like to recommend denial.
Okay, please state your name.
My name is Hud Bro. I'm actually representing the owner, Alice Keith. I'm a would-be buyer for this piece of property. Our sale is contingent upon, you know, me being able to get the correct zoning to build multifamily. I've actually got a couple right here. The reason I'm requesting the change to A8 is that this piece of property is in between Mandeville and Madisonville, just beyond that relatively new Chapel Creek apartment complex as you pass Franco's. It's probably a quarter mile, maybe a half a mile down on the left-hand side as you're approaching Madisonville. I'm proposing the construction of a 36-unit luxury 3-story apartment complex. The A8 was just so that we could get enough density and still preserve a lot of green space. The property has wetlands on it. More than half of the property, I think, or right at about half is wetlands. Excuse me. We want to preserve, obviously, the wetlands, but also allow for a lot of green space as well, and that's why we're looking at doing a 3-story development. I believe that this particular demographic is being underserved in the community based on the very high occupancy levels at the other nicer apartments. I called every nice apartment complex that I could find around, and they're all at least 94% occupied. Some are 95, 96% occupied. So there's obviously plenty of demand for the higher-end apartment communities. I've got some pictures, and a somewhat primitive site plan that I'd like to pass out if I could. Is that possible? The pictures that you're going to see are a property in Houston that is a very exclusive high-end property that we were hoping to duplicate the architectural style of, and you'll also see this proposed site plan that'll show you the ample green space as well as parking as well. There's 73 proposed parking places, which would be plenty. The amenities of this complex would include 9-foot ceilings, balconies with storage, walk-in closets, custom lighting, ceiling fans, oversized garden tubs, ceramic tile entryways, cable, TV, and internet included, individual utility rooms, handicap accessible units, and they'll be totally electric. But anyway, I believe that there's obviously demand. There is A3, A4 in somewhat close proximity. Like I said, the Chapel Creek apartments are right down the street. This property is right next door to a brand new office complex. And so it seems like, it's a beautiful street. There's, this property would be well served for, a very nice apartment complex. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak against this? No one wishes to speak against it. I'm going to close the floor and turn it over to the commission.
I should say also there's a realtor that would like to say something if that's suitable, or if you don't think that's necessary. She wanted to speak on behalf of the owner of the property. She's had it listed for 2.5 years, hadn't gotten any bites, and wants to communicate the fact that the owner really needs to sell.
Do you have a speaker card on the? Okay. I'm going to reopen the floor briefly to allow her to speak.
Okay.
Hi, good evening. I'm Holly Brazelman with the Real Estate Resource Group. I am been having this property listed for Miss Keith for probably 3 years now. We have aggressively marketed it and reduced it, and really have not gotten much inquiries on the property at all. We do have a viable buyer now here. Miss Keith is very motivated. She's in need of the money of her property, and just recently found out her husband has pancreatic cancer. So now she's even more motivated. But anyway, I also agree with Mr. Brode that this property would what he's proposing there would be something that would be, we do have a need here in the area. As you know, mortgage financing is not as easy to get now, and that's why a lot of the apartment complexes are pretty much completely to their capacity. So I do think that the use and what he's proposing here would be something good for the area and be very nice looking in that location. Does anyone have any questions?
Okay. Now I'm going to close the floor now, turn it over to the commissioners. Mr. Lorne.
I have a question. I know that 22 south of, the south side of 22 in that area last week took a hell of a beating and flooded like the devil. How did this property come out?
If you look at the survey and at the triangle, do you have a copy of the survey? That the section to the back usually does take on water where you see the little X's, and that's really where the wetlands are. To my knowledge, the front part did not. I'm really not sure. I didn't drive down there, but I don't think that front part was flooded.
Well, they had the highway closed, blocked off before you got down there for a good part of the time.
Yeah. I'm not real sure, to be honest with you. I did not go down there. But in the past, for Katrina, I know that back section did get water. There's about, Mr. Brode said, about half of the property is non-wet. It's a little more than that that's buildable space on the property.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have any questions? We need a motion to either approve or deny. Commissioners?
I'll go along with the staff and make a motion to deny.
Motion by Mr.
Second.
Matthews to deny, second. Mr. Todd, do you have a question? Okay, please vote. Motion to deny carries 7-1. If you wish to appeal, please fill out an appeal card and turn it in to staff. Thank you. Let's see, item 12 has been withdrawn. Item 13, zoning case 01-11-072, major amendment to PUD Plan Unit Development. The acres is 3,074.17. Petitioner Shelby LaSalle, owner is Tammany Holding Corporation and others. Parcel located, excuse me, parcel located on the east side of I-10, East Service Road on the west side of Louisiana 433, north of Lake Pontchartrain, south of Snyder Canal, Ward 9, District 13. Staff?
The request consists of a change in zoning category of approximately 140 acres from LV3 to LV1, and as you see, I attached a definition of both zoning. The change is being requested to allow for a studio city within the subdivision. Staff does not have any objection to the request, considering that it meets the objective of 2025 future land use plan, and we would like to recommend approval.
Thank you. Anyone in the audience wish to speak on behalf of this project? Yes, sir. Please state your name and address.
I'm Darrell Landry, 3600 Lakeshore Boulevard East. I represent Tammany Holding Corporation, the owner of the property.
Okay. Do you have any comments other than what staff?
No, I just request approval from the commission if that,
All right.
if they're so desired. I think that all the information has been given to you in the package, that what the intent is, and hopefully we can put some people to work in St. Tammany Parish.
Okay, thank you. Anyone here opposed to this? All right, I'll close the floor and turn it over to the commissioners. Mr. Mackey.
Yes, we've been kind of looking at this stuff for a while. I'll just say that I'd like to make a motion to approve.
We have a
I'll
motion
second
to
it.
approve. We have a second. Ms. Casabon, you have a question,
I
comment?
just seconded, I was going to make a motion
Okay.
to approve also. I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Item 14, zoning case 12-09-093. This is a major amendment to a PUD, Plan Unit Development Overlay. It's 5.6 acres. Petitioner is Lee Laporte. Owner is Covington Place Cottages LLC. Parcel located on the north side of 10th Street, east of Ruby Street, Ward 3, District 2. Staff?
The request consists of a reduction of the front setback from 14 feet to 12 feet to allow for the placement of a two-car garage without reducing the living space of the main residence. Staff does not have any objection and would like to recommend approval.
Okay. Thank you. Please state your name and address.
I'm Lee Laporte, and if you have any questions, I mean, it's pretty simple. It's just like Helen said. We're just looking to add a two-car garage because we're getting a lot of requests from realtors for that.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anyone here opposed to this? I'll close the floor to the public. Commissioners, Mr. Davis?
I make a motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Davis to approve, seconded by Ms. Casabon. Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, we have any old business? New business? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. We have a motion to adjourn.